of work and dollar signs. So listen when I say you need to find the light of day before it's too late to apologize. Like holy sweet Geneva, here's a mass grave you can colonize. Because you seem to love to talk about the spirit of America. But if you saw the spirit of this land's supposed character, I think that you'd be calling ICE. And I also think the actual America is truly represented by the call to ICE. Is represented best by the descendants of some immigrants bitching about the immigrants, snitching on some immigrants, then playing dumb and innocent like good little Christians when their neighbors get deported. Until they're screaming at the store that they waited 20 minutes more because the staff was short. Because some ordinary bigot started waging war on immigrants. And honey, we'll just keep deporting because like your first vote and each election since, it turned out that the man you are supporting ended up to just be twice the fucking bigot as the bigot that he wins against. But I was not among the herd. A single word from Biden stirred a tingle in the cynic's sense. I knew that a vote for Joe was more like Reagan 2.0. I could smell that sarin smoke that choked around the river bend. And so I spoke about a living end. About an anchor thrown to drowning men, a democratic president, a country never found again. A man who marinated in the blood this land was founded in. A crime bill that contains sufficient lethal ends to drown us in. All written by a man who wears a crown of sins, who currently is sleeping in a bed of sins. And it's no wonder those who truly understand the meaning of democracy are not too keen to let us in. It's no wonder other countries can't conceive of skipping meals or missing rent or being on the streets because you can't afford your medicine. That's uniquely American. And Joe has proved to be the most disturbingly American of presidents. I shiver when I think of what's to come if he's the precedent. It's a wonder I can even function still to process all the rhymes through all the resonance. Bless my heart, I'm liminally reticent. Standing on a threshold of bone, ash, and sediment, near a faded marker claiming this to be the grave of all my sentiments. Exactly where I left them all and just how I remembered it. It's a wonder I can even function still to process all the rhymes through all the resonance. Bless my heart, I'm liminally reticent. Standing on a threshold of bone, ash, and sediment, near a faded marker claiming this to be the grave of all my sentiments. Exactly where I left them all, and just how I remembered it.
Wait, so if you don't trust the CIA or you don't trust like our institutions, then what do you trust? Wait, so if you don't trust the CIA or you don't trust like our institutions, then what do you trust?
Fuck.
Wait, so if you don't trust the CIA or you don't trust like our institutions, then what do you trust?
Good morning, Sunday morning. Good morning, Sunday morning.
We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal and the world is not the same. Said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face.
Nancy gonna cut you a check too late. 2 years after your funeral's paid, 2 years after the grave, she'll be a little stronger for all of the dollars she saved. Watching you wake, watching you cling to your family slipping away. Watch her do nothing but pray. Watch her condemn the Republicans, take them to brunch and then shrug it away. Now watch us be outraged half of a day, then pick a new hero to face our leaders
and think they could beat them, playing the game they played since Pelosi had real human blood in her veins. They're all one and the same, sold off stocks and they all maintain that the risk was benign and the virus was tame. Flash forward and 40 Sunday mornings fade, 250,000 people in its wake, and the cruise ship sailed today. So motherfucker, don't shine a light in my face. Wait.
Good morning. Sunday morning. Good morning.
Wait.
Sunday morning.
Wait, we're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. Said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face. Said you waited for a warning, but the warning never.
No, Indy left. What is happening here?
To check out IndependentLeft.news.
The Indie News Network.
Indie Left News.
Oh, hey, Indie Left.
IndependentLeft.news. Great work.
Indie Left News.
IndependentLeft.news.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News. Shout out. Oh, what's up, Independent Left? Indie Friend show.
Thank you, IndependentLeft.news.
The INN, Indy, you're wonderful.
I think Indie was onto something.
Independent News Network, Indie News.
Yeah. What's up, Indy, over on Rockfin?
Independent News Network, also known as INN.
Indy Left News.
I don't know if I would have made it through that 3 weeks without Indy, honestly.
No, I was just going to ask Indy.
A huge thank you and shout out to Indie Left.
No, you know what we're doing? We're world building, Indie.
Indie Left News.
You were doing the INN recruiting.
Indie News.
Independent Left News. Shout out to Independent Left News.
Check out Independent Left News.
At Kennedy News.
I see Indy's in the chat. Hi, Indy. Okay, great.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? We're here. Who are these people? Thank you, Banshee Pelosi. Jesus Christ. We're finally here. We're going to try doing this, and hopefully we don't glitch out too hard, but we're recording this, so if we do glitch out, we'll be able to upload this as a podcast, and I already see 0 frames, so we'll see how this goes. This is How Do We Miss That? We're a little late to start, but we're here. We've had glitchy internet. I had to reboot. Thank you. Yep. So all the puppets. Yep. Hi, Dr. Nick, Cowboy Kitty. Good to see everybody. How are you? Let's get to stories because I don't know how much time we have on the internet, and let's get moving. All right. So I have got a crazy story. Now, I'm a news aggregator, right? I like to aggregate news. So I was very interested when I opened up my inbox and I subscribed to Payday Report, which is a really good newsletter. Mike Elk runs this independent newsletter himself that reports on labor. So he reports that there's an anti-UAW union buster behind a labor news website. I'm like, ooh, what? Labor news? What? What's going on here? So I find out that this guy, Peter List, anti-UAW union buster, secretly behind hit labor news site. So,
Okay.
look, this is giving news aggregators a bad name in my mind, you know. So here's what's going on is that laborunionnews.com has quickly become the Drudge Report of labor news. And it is right now the largest aggregator of news. Hold on, let me make this a little bigger so you can read it. Of news about unions on the web, who's posting that it's linked to over 50 news articles a day and has posted links to more than 34,000 labor news articles since it started in 2023. That's pretty good. They are a SPAC, by the way. So, yes, thank you. Labor union, go ahead. I'm waiting for it.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't want you to say thank you.
Okay. Among movement activists, laborunionnews.com quickly amassed a large following, mainly due to its daily posting of NLRB union election petitions and a prolific aggregation of labor news. What's funny is, again, I'd never heard of this, but okay, good for you. As a veteran labor reporter, Mike signed up for a subscription a few months ago and had to help prepare his labor newsletter and thought it was a low-budget labor news aggregator. They even solicited crowdfunding from labor readers as a site like his own, right? Which is Payday Report.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's discovered that laborunionnews.com is run by a notorious union buster named Peter List, who runs a multi-million-dollar union-busting empire. So what's really interesting about this, and I didn't know this, is that a decade ago, Mike exposed that Peter List had previously worked with Senator Bob Corker to help anti-union forces narrowly defeat the UAW in 2014. So he ran into this guy 10 years ago, and now all of a sudden he's popped back up on the scene and now making a labor news aggregator site. And what's even crazier is that this fake labor news aggregator site, well, it's a real site, but it's fake in that it's not necessarily independent.
You are fake news.
Right? Now, the website uses its mass following, right? So to spread fake news about the anti-UAW in the run-up to the historic UAW election at VW Chattanooga. And that's happening. And then there's one also at Mercedes-Benz in Alabama that's also happening, a vote. So on the surface, laborunionnews.com could appear similar to other lower budget labor news sites and aggregators like Labor Press, Labor Tribune, Northwest Labor Press, On Labor, How Things Work, maybe even Payday Report. I would not call How Things Work a lower budget labor news site. That's Hamilton Nolan's website, also a Substack. However, mixed among links to mainstream labor news about real labor struggles and even links to left-wing websites about the UAW election in Chattanooga, including links to Payday Report, funny enough, List has begun to subtly mix in anti-UAW articles that could confuse and trick many readers. And I looked at this and I found one that really kind of bugged me, and we'll go over that in a second. But yesterday, he blasted out a link to his thousands of followers that reads, Union Watchdog, UAW leaders bask in Puerto Rico as members get laid off. Because they're looking at potentially expanding to Puerto Rico and building a plant there, so they're going to hold a conference for all the leadership. And of course, the leadership wants a trip to Puerto Rico, even though Puerto Rico isn't nearly like as glamorous as it used to be. And they're not getting five-star accommodations.
Cuba or whatever.
Right? So the article, which is published simply under the byline laborunionnews.com, which is one of the few articles on the website, links to a study put out by the Anti-Union Center for Union Facts about a conference held in Puerto Rico where the UAW represents already over 5,000 members. So he profiled back in 2018 how the group worked heavily against the UAW in Chattanooga during the second UAW election there, which also failed. It's failed a couple times. But what the article said is that at a time when Sean Fain and UAW leaders are hoping to unionize foreign-owned automakers with travel to exotic places like Puerto Rico, the new union leadership may run the risk of being viewed by its current members, as well as potential new members, as being only a slight departure from the prior leaders who spent millions of dollars on members' dues on themselves. Yeah, but nowhere in the article is it mentioned that they represent over 5,000 members there in Puerto Rico, where it was hosted, and that there was look at that. There was even a video produced by Region 9A about highlighting their proud history. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that. Okay, all right. Mike says that while the article may seem like one done by a low budget union democracy activist concerned about union spending, right? Peter List has paid more than $1.5 million to freelance union busters in 2022 alone, according to the Federal Department of Labor records tracked by the website Labor Lab. Wait, what? Yeah, let me read that again. The guy running this website has paid more than $1.5 million to freelance union busters just within one calendar year. But he's running an independent labor website that aggregates.
Yeah.
This bothers me. Again, this is besmirching the name of what I do and what I hold most sacred and dear. Yet, however, again, given all the links to legitimate news organizations on labor unions news, and that is not the right way of saying it, it's laborunionnews.com, a rank-and-file VW worker reading the article blasting the UAW's conference in Puerto Rico wouldn't know that a union buster secretly wrote the article or that the union had 5,000 members in Puerto Rico. I don't think that matters. I don't think that your leadership needs to have a meeting in a tropical island because you have 5,000 members there. You could have it in Austin, Texas, where you've got 50,000 members and you're trying to, or you could have it in Plano where you're trying to recruit all the Toyota people. I mean, you could hold it in a lot of different places. They wanted to hold it in Puerto Rico because it's Puerto Rico. I don't, I get the motivation of this guy may be seedy, but questioning why they're holding it in Puerto Rico isn't necessarily the wrong thing. And like he's saying, it's not necessarily wrong to do that, but it's unethical not to at least mention that they also did have 5,000 members there, right? So given that List previously worked with union busters at VW in Chattanooga, including Senator Bob Corker, the article would likely be used to falsely accuse the UAW leadership of vacationing on the union's dime, which it's not necessarily doing, but it certainly may piggyback a trip.
Thinking about it.
Well, some of them may stay with their wives because they already had the trip going with union. And companies and people do that every day. There's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, like I'm not going to get my pennies in a bunch over something like that. Again, especially when they've got 5,000 members there. It's not the greatest look, yeah. But it also is going to show the people of Puerto Rico and the members there that you care about them, and there's PR value and reason why you do that. Anyway, Payday Report discovered that List owns Labor Union News after noticing that the site was registered to an address on the resort community of Pawleys Island, South Carolina, which is an unusual place for a labor publication to be based. After some Googling, I quickly discovered that the Pawleys Island address was the same address routinely used by his various anti-union operations, including Couture Culture and Labor Union Report. So, again, this guy operates an entire like a whole network of sites. He's a little bit ahead of me because I don't nearly go that far because A, there's really not that many websites to amplify when it comes to independent media. But what this guy is doing is building a nefarious network of sites. So in 2014, again, not only does he not disclose his name in posting on Labor Union News, I can't really fault him for that, because I'm an anonymous and I don't post my name either. But he also doesn't disclose his extensive work with former Senator Bob Corker. I've never worked with any politician, ever. So, and I've certainly never busted any unions in my lifetime. All right. But in 2014, when working for In These Times, Mike broke this story about how he had worked with Corker to spread these similar anti-union talking points among plant workers, which is interesting. Right. So using documents obtained initially by a news channel in Nashville, he traced emails just before the union election, which showed Senator Corker's chief of staff and one of Governor Haslam. I remember Governor Haslam of Tennessee. One of his cabinet makers were part of an email chain with both Chattanooga-based and national anti-union consultants about the efforts to draw attention to 3 videos produced to fight the UAW at Volkswagen. This is relevant because Volkswagen and the UAW are in a fight right now, and UAW is gonna vote like 70%. The members are gonna vote to join the UAW.
Das Auto.
Right. First unionized plant of a foreign manufacturer in the United States. It's a big deal. And they've been trying to do this. This is, I think, the 6th attempt to unionize. Videos feature testimonials from workers at previous UAW plants claiming that the UAW destroyed Detroit and led to the closure of a former VW plant in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, 1988, which is where his mother and aunt worked and were active in the union efforts in the 1980s. So this guy has like firsthand, up close and personal knowledge of organizing efforts that happened within during that time around VW. So, again, this is all back to 2014, and it's relevant, and you can read the whole story about Bob Corker, but here he goes. With the UAW trying for its 3rd time in a decade to win a union drive at VW in Chattanooga, List is using laborunionnews.com to plant anti-UAW stories composed by union busters into the local conversations. With links to legit news organizations and even left-wing ones, some workers may be tricked into believing that they're anti-UAW, but union buster trackers like Bob Funk say workers should be weary. I wish I had a last name of Funk.
Well, I don't know. It's just because they don't like UAW doesn't mean they're. I mean, this guy might be, but like we've covered UAW's pretty terrible decisions. Like would they label us similarly as anti-union?
Right. So again, after publication, Union Buster List emailed Payday Report, right, to say that he was misunderstood, asking to talk sometime. I'm not really the boogeyman you make me out to be, but I do enjoy the notorious moniker. Dude, fuck this guy, right? He also invited him to come on his podcast, which Mike declined, and responded with a set of questions demanding to know who funded him. Nice. Mike is tenacious and he's not fucking around. So if you can support this independent journalist, Mike Elk from Payday Report, please do. He does good work as a labor reporter. He also traveled to Brazil recently, and he broke some story about a politician or some woman that was murdered and exposing her murder. Very, very good reporter. I like Mike Elk quite a bit. Again, Payday Report. Please support him if you can. Shout out to Mike. We DM occasionally. He actually exposed the story that I found about Derek Palmer when it came to the Amazon labor union vice president having a domestic violence charge. So yeah, good. I'm glad to see people here. Okay, looks like we got 11. It's really choppy. Okay, it's decent for the moment. Good. All right, let's get to the next story because holy shit, this one's a big one. And I'll bet you missed this one because I think a lot of people did. Kit Klarenberg, you guys have heard of him, right? You know Kit?
He's the one that got knocked off Twitter for being anti-Semitic, right?
He antagonized an October 7th victim family and basically said, it was not nice. So yeah, I don't want us to kick off too. So anyway, Kit Klarenberg is an Indie Media Award honoree, by the way. That's a sound I was looking for. So Kit writes an article on March 31st to close out Q1. Secret CIA presence on January 6th confirmed. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, YouTube may not like this story. Facebook. So another side adjunct to this, well, I'll get to afterwards. And then there's a couple of comments that add additional flair to this article. So Holy crap. CIA, January 6th. What is he talking about? So he starts out very, flowery, few issues other than John F. Kennedy's assassination was a conspiracy. 9/11 was an inside job, and Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Unite Americans more than the belief that January 6th was the insurrection, quote unquote, was incited by government provocateurs. We've heard this before. While initially, Biden administration officials aggressively exploited the incident for partisan political purposes, say that 5 times fast, partisan political purposes.
President Trump incited an erection.
Oh, yes, that one. That's her, Vice President Kamala Harris. Oh, my God, did you see her this week? Ludicrously likening the unrest to Pearl Harbor and 9/11. It subsequently dropped off the mainstream radar without a trace. That's interesting. How about that?
9/11.
No, not 9/11. No, this is 1/6, which is
9/11 was bad.
yes, what it was, and this is what the Democrats say was the equivalent of 9/11 to them. So, an official desire to suppress awkward questions about what precisely happened that fateful day and why may account for this omerta. After all, a steady stream of clues suggesting that the insurrection may have been fomented by shadowy state actors has trickled into the public domain ever since. The latest is quite a bombshell. And again, remember this show is called How Did We Miss That? And I'm guessing you did. Because I did. Legal activist group Judicial Watch has unearthed 88 pages of Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or the ATF agency records, proving that CIA operatives were covertly present on January 6th. Wait, what? Okay. The documents, secured via court order after the DOJ ignored FOIA requests, include a series of text messages between Bureau agents. In a group chat titled January 7th Intel Chain, the exchanges contain 2 references to direct CIA participation in the official response to the day's tumult. That's a nice way to describe it. I like it. He's very flowery with his language. Right? One message states, quote, 2 CIA bomb techs, unquote, were assisting with a quote-unquote pipe bomb scene in D.C., unquote. The other mentioned several CIA dog teams on standby in the vicinity of the quote-unquote insurrection. Houston. Okay, so here's the text message chain that's very interesting, that there's a FaceTime call, a couple of them. Then there's a text message from this agent who says drone reported at the southwest region of the Capitol. And somebody else says 7 NGA dog teams, 2 ATF, and several CIA dog teams on standby. Interesting. Kid continues. In theory, despite the CIA's constitutional prohibition on domestic activities, which the agency regularly breaches with impunity in any event, there is nothing necessarily suspicious about its covert presence in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. As an official fact sheet notes, Langley's K-9 unit has routinely been deployed to external events on U.S. soil, including Super Bowls, Miss Universe pageants, Major League Baseball games, and the Olympics. Moreover, there were numerous pipe bombs secreted in the U.S. Capitol, requiring expert removal. Wait, what? Allegedly? Do I have to say allegedly? I don't know. We'll say allegedly. It doesn't, but I'm going to say allegedly. This is look at this, like a baseball card for a K-9 police dog for the CIA. ACAB, including dogs, sorry. Now, however, the fact sheet reveals that bomb disposal isn't the CIA K-9 unit's sole or even prime responsibility. its avowed mission, and again, that's written down here, is to, quote, protect the worldwide assets and personnel of the CIA, emphasis added. K9 teams are trained to detect all types of explosives by searching delivery trucks, buildings, vehicles, packages, and assisting CIA police officers, emphasis added, unquote. When one considers that whoever laid pipe bombs in D.C. remains at large, suspicions about clandestine federal machinations on January 6th can only multiply. Allegedly. Again, allegedly. Allegedly, YouTube. Allegedly. Now, the FBI announced that it had defused viable pipe bombs left at the Democratic and Republican National Committee buildings in D.C. mere hours after the Capitol's breach on January 6th and before the National Guard arrived on scene. Did you know that, Reef?
It must be true.
Did you know that, Reef?
What?
Did you know
I know that there was
pipe bombs planted
stuff over with Nancy Pelosi, and I've heard something in that.
Allegedly planted in both.
Allegedly.
But not in their offices or not in Congress, but in the DNC and the RNC buildings.
Yes.
I did not hear that. So the Bureau subsequently published, quote unquote, images and video of the suspect, the suspect's backpack, the suspect's shoes, the explosive devices, and a map of the route the suspect walked the night the pipe bombs were placed. But curiously, of purportedly 23,000 collected videos, just 6 have been released to date, none of which contain anything that would assist in identifying the individual in question. And this was the Bolo. To be on the lookout.
The Bolo? Oh.
Yeah, this was the official notification put out by the FBI on January 6th about somebody who had planted pipe bombs, allegedly, in the DNC and the RNC.
Allegedly.
Now.
Gotcha.
A $500,000, dude, how did we not know this story? A $500,000 reward was offered for information leading to the suspect's prosecution. Fast forward 3 years and the sum remains unclaimed. Go figure. I'm surprised some CIA agent hasn't claimed it. A renewed call for witnesses issued by the FBI on January 4th of this year noted that in the intervening time, quote, a dedicated team of FBI agents, analysts, data scientists, and law enforcement partners has worked thousands of hours conducting interviews, reviewing physical and digital evidence, and assessing tips from the public, unquote. These leads reportedly helped the Bureau, quote, advance the investigation, unquote. But they're still nowhere, and they're still offering this reward. They still know nothing. It's unclear, however, given that the culprit hasn't been caught, why pipe bombs were placed at the DNC and RNC is likewise uncertain. Now, then Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund and several U.S. lawmakers have speculated that the purpose was to divert law enforcement from the site of the looming, quote-unquote, insurrection. As it was, 3 separate police teams posted who were at the Capitol were dispatched to the RNC, leaving just 1 squad at the Capitol building right when the Trump supporters were massing at the barricades. Did you know that?
What is going on here?
Did you know that? Holy shit. This is getting crazy. Now, curiously, the RNC pipe bomb was apparently found via pure happenstance. This is insane. This is insane. A local U.S. government employee working remotely decided to use her lunch hour to do her laundry. Her apartment block's laundry room was situated at the back of the building, accessible via an alleyway shared with the RNC. Having dropped her clothes off and returned home at noon, she reportedly went back to use her dryer around 12:45 when she spotted the device. Coincidentally, this individual was at the time project manager at a public-private partnership providing first responders with emergency communications during terror attacks and natural disasters, which weeks earlier had signed a $92 million contract with the FBI. Well, that's interesting. And then you see this weird timing device. She says she had repeatedly claimed that the pipe bomb was found just 20 minutes before its allegedly timed detonation. Problematically, though, pictures of the timer released by the FBI show it had a maximum delay of 1 hour, raising the obvious question of how could it possibly have been laid on January 5th but rigged to go off the next day at all if it only had a 60-minute timer? Moreover, the DNC pipe bomb was discovered at roughly 1:15 in the afternoon, 30 minutes later, authorities having had the foresight to check the nearby building's grounds too, ostensibly on a whim. On a whim?
Just a whim.
But
maybe a Wim Hof, but I feel like just a whim. Yeah.
But the device didn't explode when the RNC bomb was allegedly intended to. So that's interesting. Once alerted, scores of police arrived almost immediately, a crew of ATF and FBI agents in tow. This almost reminds me of like Die Hard, which is the one in New York City. That's the third one with Sam Jackson, right? Where they have the explosion downtown so that they can rob the thing somewhere else and transport all the gold out of the thing. This almost seems like they were trying to create a diversionary situation. Let's just call it situation. Okay. I don't know how to describe this, but if the bomber's objective, okay, so once alerted, scores of police arrived almost immediately, crew of FBI agents and ATF agents in tow. But if the bomber's objective truly was to divert law enforcement from the Capitol, this can only be considered miraculous timing, given that at 12:54 p.m., heavily surveilled Proud Boys activist Ryan Samsel breached the barricades, leading to a deluge of Trump supporters following suit and the subsequent quote-unquote insurrection or riot or whatever you want to call it. Were it not for
the thing.
Yep. Were it not for a U.S. government employee's chance find minutes before, January 6th may have played out rather differently. If either of those devices had actually been able to go off.
Mm-hmm. They would have gotten more money for Capitol Police, you mean?
Maybe. Maybe. So the FBI states that the two devices were laid between approximately 7:30 and 8:30 on the evening of the 5th. But this lack of clarity is peculiar given the extensive footage of the suspect planting the pipe bombs and the Bureau tracking their movements to and vision. Did any of this come out during the January 6th hearings? Is it we learned about all this? Or did not even talk about it during that? I didn't pay attention to any of that stuff.
I heard some people talking vaguely about this, but that that police were diverted from it because of Pelosi and stuff like that. Like, I don't know.
Well, we had heard about Ray. We had heard about Ray Epps. We had heard about like Ray Epps, and somehow there was a connection between Ray Epps and Nancy Pelosi, which I don't know if there is or not. That's an allegation.
There was something with this DNC thing. I just can't remember exactly.
But the DNC and RNC are 5-minute walk from each other, so it's not like they're like right next door to each other. But Washington, D.C. is the second most CCTV saturated U.S. city by some margin, remarkable given its size, small size. My guess is that Las Vegas would be the number one. There are 35,082 local surveillance cameras in total. It's impressive that he got that number. I don't know where he pulled it from. Or 55.5 cameras per 1,000 citizens. Evidently, the feeds are not monitored in real time, for the suspect made no attempt whatsoever to conceal their activities. A hooded and masked individual openly secreting something at two highly sensitive, well-protected political sites in succession would surely arouse some suspicion if so, wouldn't it?
You think
That the pipe bomber, allegedly, placed highly destructive payloads at the DNC and RNC so brazenly on January 5th, 2021, without incident, entirely unnoticed, before disappearing completely into the ether like a fart in the wind, is extraordinary. With Trump's Save America rally scheduled for the next day, DC was filling up with his supporters. That evening, they staged a demonstration in Freedom Plaza, which turned violent when Antifa and Black Lives Matter counter-protesters arrived, producing clashes broken up by police. The city was already on high alert. As if they wouldn't be protecting those buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Over the prior week, too, the FBI and its field offices consistently warned of armed protesters in every state and plans by Trump supporters that included violence. Right? On January 5th, the Bureau's Norfolk, Virginia HQ emailed Capitol Police in an internal situational information report. Subject line, quote, potential criminal activities in the Washington, D.C. area are planned for tomorrow, unquote. It contained multiple social media posts indicating some Save America attendees had unambiguously malign intentions. Here's one that boldly declared, quote, be ready to fight. Congress needs to hear glass breaking, doors being kicked in, and blood from their BLM and Pantifa slave soldiers being spilled. Ay, ay, ay. Get violent. Again, this is a quote. We are not advocating for this. We are reading this directly. Stop calling this a march or rally or protest. Get there ready for a war. Or go there ready for war is the quote directly. We get our president or we die. Nothing else will achieve this goal. Yoinks. Okay. Wow. So this FBI warning may account for why, according to mainstream corporate media reports published in the immediate aftermath of January 6th, Capitol Hill staffers were urged by supervisors not to attend work that day. We've talked about that due to greatly heightened risk levels. So they knew something was up, but it does not explain DC authorities simultaneously failing to deploy basic precautions, such as frozen zones and hardened barriers commonly used for major events in the area. Now that police me harder, Daddy, is that really what Kit is saying there? I don't know if I agree with that. By contrast, it seems that the outgoing administration was highly security conscious on January 6th. Of course, we know in January 2022, Trump's deputy chief of staff, Anthony Ornato, told House Select Committee on the January 6th attack investigators that his superior, Mark Meadows, pressured D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser to request a sizable National Guard presence on the day. In the event of violent clashes with counter-protesters erupting again, he claimed Trump suggested up to 10,000 peacekeepers would be necessary. Wait, what? But everybody said that Trump didn't want the National Guard deployed. Ornato also revealed Trump administration frustration with the acting SecDef Christopher Miller's slow deployment of the National Guard on the afternoon of January 6th. Now, this is totally...
almost like they wanted it to happen, almost, allegedly.
Now, this is totally counter to what the reports originally said, but now it's saying that once the Capitol was breached, Meadows ordered Miller, quote, get them in here to secure the Capitol now, unquote. Ornato's exculpatory testimony was concealed until March 8th this year. Why? We know why. 2 months earlier, Committee Chair Liz Cheney falsely claimed that there was, quote, no evidence that Trump ordered the Capitol to be protected. Well, now we know 10,000. He asked for 10,000 National Guardsmen. Again, not exonerating Trump for all of this
Was
stuff.
this before or after he threw the ketchup at the wall?
Allegedly, because that wait
Allegedly.
a minute, that came from the Facebook whistleblower chick, whatever her name. Not really.
I
But
know.
No, the girl who was in the office, maybe whatever. In February 2021, Time magazine published a lengthy investigation into how Democrat activists, unions, anti-Trump Republicans, major U.S. corporations, and big tech secretly banded together to fortify the 2020 presidential election and defeat every attempt to interfere with the vote's proper outcome. Quote, proper outcome meaning creepy, sleepy, handsy Uncle Joe ends up winning.
Yeah.
The article explained that there were virtually no counter demonstrators on January 6th to preserve safety and ensure that they couldn't be blamed for any mayhem, emphasis added. The activist left was strenuously discouraging counter activity. What activist left was that? Because we were in Washington 3 days before for Force the Vote. What the hell are you talking about? Now, on January 6th,
shit then.
We certainly were not excited about the inauguration because we don't give a crap about electoral politics beyond getting the Medicare for all, which is what we were pushing for. And when we knew they weren't going to do it, that's when we stood out there. Anyway, putting these facts together, we're left with the ineluctable, whatever conclusion that at the very ineluctable. I don't know that word conclusion, but that at the very least, the January 6, 2021 insurrection, quote unquote, was widely known about in advance by powerful figures and U.S. government agencies. Even Whitney Webb knew. Did they consciously permit or in one way or another encourage the predicted mayhem to happen? If nothing else, the now confirmed presence of CIA personnel in the midst of that mayhem represents an entirely new, deeply troubling dimension of an already disquieting record of the day's events. So that's Kit over on Substack. His new Substack, he just renamed it Active Measures. And then there's this guy, and I don't agree with a lot of what this guy posts. I checked out his Substack, but he does publish out there. Revet PFC Billy Masterson says, yes, the pipe bomb images released by FBI were just about as I recalled them, and I'm not the only person who questioned a Walmart mainstay's 1-hour kitchen mechanical timer with 20 minutes remaining being found 16 hours after the FBI alleged that the device was planted. Additionally, said timer had the index mark removed. When taken from its original outer case, device shown by FBI had no marking showing 0 was needed to visually interpret what at any set time on the device was. If this was a visual prop, it was not a well thought out one. Would like to ask the laundry lady how she determined the time set of device. As a DNC employee, she must be quite intelligent. I have no connection to the author or the linked PDF, nor do I draw all the same conclusions, but I did myself